Welcome to the NatSec Press podcast, a podcast unpacking national security research, books, and emerging issues in plain English. Each episode takes an academic paper or book and breaks it down into short, accessible insights. No jargon, just practical analysis drawn from real research. I'm Dr. Nicole Matejic, and today we're exploring my paper, The Radicalisation Spectrum, published in the National Security Journal in 2024. The core argument of the paper is that radicalisation is less about commitment to a specific ideology at the outset and more about how someone becomes susceptible to influence. Let's break it down. The accounts we most often hear about how someone radicalised are usually tied to a particular ideology. The assumption is that someone adopts a belief system and gradually becomes more extreme over time. But that's not always what we see in the real world. People move between ideologies. They mix them together. Sometimes they hold no strong ideological alignment at all, and yet they still radicalise towards violence. So what if ideology isn't the starting point? What if the real precursor to radicalisation is susceptibility to influence? Using behavioural economics, my paper explores how that influence occurs. Before we get into a broader discussion, it's worth defining a few of the concepts the paper draws on. The first concept is persuasion, coined by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Persuasion refers to the conditions that make someone susceptible to influence in the first place. That could include uncertainty, grievance, identity struggles, belonging, anger, fear, or social disconnection. The argument is that radicalisation often begins long before someone encounters extremist propaganda or an extremist influencer. The second concept is availability cascades. These are self-reinforcing information environments where ideas become more believable because they are repeated, amplified, and socially reinforced. Inside these ecosystems, people aren't just consuming information. They're participating in it, sharing it, defending it, repeating it, performing it socially. And that matters because radicalisation is deeply social in group environments. The paper also introduces the concepts of extremist influences and extremist cascades. An extremist influencer is someone who influences others towards adopting shared grievances or justifying violence. An extremist cascade is the ecosystem surrounding that influence, including social media accounts, forums, live streams, manifestos, podcasts, and offline networks. Put together, extremist influencers create extremist cascades around their ideas, and if someone is susceptible to influence, this is where radicalisation towards violence can begin. What matters is not necessarily the ideology itself, but how extremist influencers use information, group participation, and social reinforcement to convince followers that violence is the solution to their grievances. Importantly, not everyone who radicalizes will go on to commit violence. Radicalization is not a straight line conveyor belt to violence. It is a spectrum where people can engage towards violence or disengage away from it. Some become supporters of violent ideas but never act. Others may facilitate violence, and others disengage entirely. So what's the solution? How do we prevent people from radicalizing towards violence? If influence plays a central role in radicalization, then we need to rethink prevention. But because many of our current prevention approaches don't actually start upstream far enough, they are contending with people already exposed to or inside extremist cascades. Often, that's too late. By the time someone is deeply embedded inside an extremist environment, disengagement becomes much harder, especially online, which is where the idea of dissuasion comes into focus. Instead of only intervening after radicalization begins, we should also focus on reducing susceptibility to harmful influence in the first place. Drawing on Dr. Gav Schneider's concept of presilience, the paper argues that dissuasion should come before prevention in the traditional deter, disengage, prevent, and counter framework. Presilience moves us beyond resilience, because resilience is about recovering after harm occurs. Presilience is about building awareness, adaptability, critical thinking, and resistance to manipulation before exposure to harm. To recap, my paper argues that if we focus only on ideology, we risk misunderstanding how radicalization actually occurs. Influence often comes first. Ideology frequently comes later. And by understanding how extremist influences operate within availability cascades, particularly online, we can move intervention efforts further upstream, towards dissuasion, long before ideas of violence are normalized. Thanks for tuning in. Head to www.natsecpress.com to find this episode's notes and links. Take care.